Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we're talking about the Spyderco Military. So there she is, guys, our Spyderco Military. And what we get with a military is a set of G10 handle scales with nice hardware, and you can see as we go along, this one has some use on it. It's another one of Todd Knife and Tools knives, and he has carried and used it a lot. And we have a nice lanyard tube down here. It's a bit small, but considering when the knife was designed, it's okay. These days, if Spyderco were to redesign this knife, I bet the lanyard tube would grow to the size of a military lanyard tube, but it's all right for when it was designed. And as we roll it around to the back, we have just one short section of backspacer and the lanyard tube. And the lanyard tube is a locating pin on this knife, as well as our blade stop. And on to the other side, we see the one downfall that I see with the military. It is tip down, right hand only. Now, for military carry, maybe that's okay, but if you're going to use this thing for EDC, unless you are a tip down right hand guy, well, that's all you get. Anyhow, we do have the nice Spyderco pocket clip, and this one's got a lot of use on it, and it's still very black. It's got some wear around the edges, but whatever coating they used on that one, it still looks pretty darn good. As we roll around the top, we can see that we have a very nicely centered blade, and it is the black blade model. Got a little jumping up the thumb ramp, not quite as aggressive as some models, but it's still there, and a nice big spider hole. Alright, so as far as size comparisons go, first let's put it in its family. We have the largest member of the family right here with the military, and we have the paramilitary, which is supposedly a derivative of the military, and then we have the Para 3, which is obviously a smaller version of the paramilitary 2. And together with these, we go from a 3-inch blade, slightly under 3-inch blade, all the way up to a 4-inch blade in very similar knives. They do have a different lock mechanism with the military, and these two, of course, have a compression lock. But overall, in design, they are very, very similar. And taking these two out of the equation and putting our standards up here, we have a Delica. So it's considerably larger than the Delica. We have a Rat Model 1, still bigger than the Rat, but weighs less than the Rat. And our Buck 110. Same thing there, it's bigger than the 110, but of course weighs less. I really need to weigh one of those 110s and see how ridiculously heavy they are. It's been a while. And moving on along to our blades. In this model, we have the CPM S30V with the spider edge. It's half serrated, or approximately half serrated. And Spyderco does a really good job with these blades. And like I said, Todd Knife and Tool has had this knife for quite some time and has put a lot of use on it. And you can see some wear in that black coating, but it's not like you see with some other brands of black coating. And one of the coolest things I think Spyderco does with the black blades is they coat the blade, then they go back and they laser etch the Spider and the Spyderco CPM S30V and the Golden Colorado USA Earth, which just has a really cool effect. It's not quite a shiny effect, but a nice silver, kind of a slightly matte silver on your laser etchings. And anyhow, we have our standard Spyderco drop point with a big Spidey hole in it, and it's made out of CPM S30V with a full flat grind. So this will make a good EDC blade as well as a good hard use blade. Just like its siblings, the Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3, it's kind of a multifaceted knife. You can use it for several different applications, and it serves all of them pretty good. Now granted, it is designed to be a military carry knife. You know, the story goes that somebody asked Sal that, what knife would you design if your son Eric was going to go into the military? So Sal, who happens to be the owner of Spyderco, Sal Glesser, went and figured out what it was, and this is what we got, the Spyderco Military. And it's a great knife. And it is a big blade at about 4 inches with an edge length of about 3.5. Some of it gets taken up with your forward finger choil here and your sharpening notch back there behind the spider edge. And it's also a thick blade at about 3.7 millimeters, so nothing small here, but with the full flat grind, this thing cuts extremely well. And the spider edge, if you don't know or if you've never used a spider edge, the spider edge is a rather good serration setup. Whenever you have a spider edge, it will cut a lot better than most serrated blades. And I've got some crappy paper here, but you know, it's not one, you know, you're not going to do like the end of it and cut clean all the time, but it's very nice for a serrated edge. And from here, we're going to go to our pause and read card, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, mechanically we have our standard sleeve and torque screw pivot, just like many Spydercos and many knives out there. And it's running on phosphor bronze bushings with a kind of an inset liner lock. And I say that, it's not quite like Kershaw does, and not quite like some of the others do. The liner does not take up the entire scale. It's just a sliver in there that's heavy enough to get the locking done, and it's held in by these screws and the backspacer. So it does a great job, and it's proven itself over time. Now, you got what, 20% there, and it locks up solid. And I've had this knife apart to clean it up and just straighten it up because it had a lot of use on it whenever it showed up here. And everything inside it is still beautiful. And, you know, you can Spidey flick this thing. You can thumb flick this thing, and it doesn't matter which hand you use. Well, maybe it does. No, it don't matter. Get your fingers in the right place, everything works fine. And you know, it is a pretty darn smooth pivot. The blade will drop free, and you can shake it closed, but that's really not the purpose of the military. The military is a hard use knife for that icky environment where you may not be able to clean your knife or take care of it, and where weight is somewhat of a concern at only about 4.5 ounces, but you still need a big blade. A big blade that's going to work pretty much no matter what you get into it, whether it's sand or mud or whatever. And that's what you get out of the military. Now, ergonomically, this thing's just like any other Spyderco. Lay your hand in it, wrap your hand around it, and it feels like it belongs. Now, this is one that forces you into that forward finger choil. Now, you can hold it back here, but it's weird. You know, that just comes up weird. So you're kind of forced into that forward finger choil. But the way the handle's shaped, it gives you some more room to stretch out and move around and get different grips on the knife. And as far as all your basic grips go, everything works pretty good except your reverse grip. And that's another place where the handle gets pretty long. And Spyderco's bad about that. I don't quite understand. Let's see if I can get something in here to point with. Here's a Delica. And let's see. Tip of the blade ends there. And we've got, what, more than 1/2 inch of extra knife sticking out. And Spyderco does that with this knife, the Paramilitary 2, and the Para 3. Way too much extra knife sticking past the tip of the blade. But, you know, it does kind of mess up the ergonomics whenever you're doing some things. but I think it makes up for it in other places. You know, just be aware of that. Unless you've got really, really big hands, your reverse grip is going to be a little odd. And, you know, guys, the military was designed several years ago, and it was designed in a time whenever liner and frame locks were the thing. I really think if Sal were to go back and redesign this today, we might get something a little different. But as a hard use knife, it works really well and does its job. I don't like the fact that it's tip down right hand only, and I'm not crazy about the amount of extra handle down here, but overall not bad. And we'll stick it in the Levi's real quick and see just where that tip down right hand only gets us. You know, and there we go. We've got a large amount of knife sticking out right here. It's just, it's not bad, but whenever you consider it's tipped down, it's right hand only, they could have done better. You know, the police that we looked at a few days ago, it's kind of it may have even been earlier than the military, but it is tip up, tip down, left or right, and it has its own issues for EDC with the pocket clip, but for its intended purpose, it's very versatile. Not so with the military. Tip down, right hand only. Alright, so that was the military. And the military is a rather interesting knife in my opinion. You know, I don't like the tip down, right hand only, but overall, we've got a big knife in a fairly light package. What was it, 4.5 ounces? And everything works really, really, really good. And you can take the knife apart and service the entire thing rather easily. They didn't make anything hard here like Spyderco is known to do. It's just a beautiful knife with the exception of that pocket clip. And I really wish that Spyderco would go back in, update that pocket clip, and, you know, kind of set us up like they do on the paramilitary series where we've got tip up, left or right, and tip down, left or right. But overall, the military is a great big knife. Does it have some ergonomic issues? Yeah, in my opinion, it does. It forces you into that choil, like I said, and then if you get it back here, you're too far away from things. And, you know, unless there's some specific purpose for that I'm not aware of, that's just not a good way to control a knife. You know, maybe if you're hacking and slashing at bushes or something, but other than that, I don't see a good purpose for it. So, anyhow, guys, that has been the Spyderco Military, a classic Spyderco and another great design from Sal Glusser. And you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.